Hello, I'm Kyle Anderson, and today we're going to be taking a look at some key fundamental Excel skills for my course. Now, none of this is complicated. We're simply going to be doing split screens, add, subtract, divide, multiply, sum, copy, and paste. That's all that we really need to be able to do, but I want to work with everyone on how to do that efficiently and effectively to help you complete your homework. In this analysis, we have a company that sells small bear-shaped pinatas. Not a really high-end product, something that we buy so we can destroy it, so we kind of get an idea of what kind of industry we're in. And they've given us information about their income from last year, and so they want to play what if to see if they make some changes, what's the result. So first off, we're given the sales, variable cost, contribution margin, fixed cost, and operating income, and our per unit amounts. And if I know the total sales and the per unit, I can calculate the units sold. Now remember, never type a number in if it's already there. So I'm going to hit plus. Plus and equal do the same thing. 600,000 in sales divided by the $12 per unit, and I get 50,000 units sold. Now, I want to double check and make sure that the variable expenses are truly variable and the contribution margin works out correctly. So I'm going to copy this. I don't need to write it again. I'm going to copy this, and you'll see I can hit it here. I can go up to the screen to the commands up top and do it. I'm going to do it one way that I really like, and I'm going to move my mouse so it becomes a solid plus sign. I'm just going to drag it down, and I get 50,000 for all three. So that means I've got the truly variable expenses, and the contribution margin is working out correctly. All right, next skill, as we move down, I'm going to use a horizontal layout, and I'm going to move this down so we can, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller here. There we go. So I'm going to move down here, and I want to put this in a format that I can really manipulate the numbers and play what if. Each of the different scenarios, the information's given, and I put an expected change column in. So first off, I want to know where I'm at. And this data up here is great, but I want to put it in the right format. Again, we're not going to type any new numbers in. I'm going to pick up my 50,000 units. I'm going to put in my sales. I'm just going to hit equals or plus and grab it up there. My variable, my sales per unit is 12. Then my variable expenses is 7 per unit. And I'll calculate my contribution margin, the sales minus the variable cost. Notice that I'm not typing in any numbers. I'm just grabbing the numbers that are in the Excel worksheets. Then I will go ahead, in this case, I'm going to double check the math on this. So in the contribution margin format, the units sold times the sales price per unit gives me sales. My units times the variable cost per unit gives me variable expenses. I subtract sales from variable expenses to get contribution margin. My fixed costs are given up here, and then contribution margin minus fixed cost is my net operating income. Now numbers look right here great, and when we do changes, it's hard to really tell what's happening. So we're going to make use of the vertical analysis. So in that case, I'm going to compare everything to sales. So I'm going to take 600,000 divided by 600,000. It's 100%. I'm going to calculate this each time because I want to be able to make use of this. I'm going to do it once, and then I'm just going to copy and paste it into other problems. I'm going to take the 350 divided by the 600,000. Then I subtract the two. Sales minus variable cost is contribution margin of 42%. Fixed cost in this case are 29%, and my operating income is 600,000. So we've got a good idea of where we're at. We're currently running a 42% contribution margin ratio, 13% profit, and now we're going to play what if. Now remember, up to this point, we have simply used the plus and equals key to grab numbers that are in the worksheet. We've used add, subtract, and divide, and that's pretty much it. So let's move to the next key skill. Here we have our sales increased by 10% and sales volume decreased by 5. So I've put an expected change column, -5 on units, plus 10 on sales. And I typically don't like to do this, but in this scenario, this is the best way to do it. I am going to use an absolute reference, and then I'm going to embed in the formula uh, calculations. So typically I try not to embed a calculation in the formula, but in this one we will. So I'm going to go to the 50,000, and I want to be able to copy this over for parts B, C, D, E. And to do that, if I just do it like it is, it's going to move every time I copy it. So I'm going to use what's called an absolute reference. You hold the FN button on your laptop, and you press the top key on your keyboard, the F4 button, and notice that I have $B, $15. Now, no matter where I copy this formula, it will always refer to column B, row 15. I'm going to press it one more time, and no matter where I copy it now, it will always refer to row 15. I'm going to press it one more time, and this is what I want. I want this to always refer to column B no matter where I copy it. The row will change. So I'm going to finish my formula here. I'm going to take the 50,000 units, and I'm going to multiply that by 1 or 100% plus this change. In this case, we had a decrease, so think about it this way. It's 100% minus 5% or 95%. So I wrote my formula, and notice that I didn't freeze anything else. I just want to make sure it always refers back to our original data. Go and press enter, and as expected, we have 95% of the units sold because of our increase in sales price. Now, I really don't want to have to do this again, so we have three things that are going to change as you look through here: the units, the sales, and the variable cost. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this down, and notice that it refers back to column B. It changed the row. Here we had no change in the column, so it just gave me the exact same. And one of the things, all my worksheets are formatted to comma style, 0 decimal places, because it's easier to see. When you go up here, you'll see in the home part there's a comma style, so I'm going to add 2 decimal places. I can also right click and do the same thing here with changing the style. Alright, so we've got our first part done. Now I want to go ahead and calculate my new sales, the 47.5 times the 13.20 per unit, the $7 times the 47,500 gives me 332.5. Then here I'm going to take the sales minus variable cost, gives me contribution margin. I've written the formula, so no need to do that again. I'm going to drag it over, and notice that you can't see it. So in this case, I'm going to, 1, get rid of the decimal places, put it back to 0, and it appears. If that hadn't happened, I can simply click on here on the column line and enlarge it so you can see it. All right, so we have 627 minus the 332 gives us our contribution margin. I want to pick up my fixed cost, and again, I want to use that absolute reference. Hold the FN button down and press F4. If I copy this anywhere, $C, $19, it will always refer back to that same location. Here, it will always refer back to row 19 no matter where I copy it. Now, it will always refer back to C19. So, we've got the fixed cost, and I'm going to take the 294, I'm going to subtract the fixed cost, contribution minus fixed cost, and I get 119.5. All right, so we've had our first part, and wow, that looks pretty good. 75 versus 119.5. I can tell a little bit about it, but not as much as I want to. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead. I created these vertical analysis calculations, and I'm going to copy it. I'm going to do a couple of different ways of copying in the video. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to press enter, and notice that the work was already done. Okay, I didn't have to recreate it. It was automatically calculated because of the way I designed it. So again, you've heard me say this. If you think using a calculator is faster than this, I got to see how you do it. This is really efficient. Okay, so we've done part A. With this done, rather than spend our time focusing on punching in numbers in a calculator over and over again, we can look at what's changed. Here we see our variable expenses has gone down as a percentage of our sales, our fixed costs have gone down, and our profit margin has increased from 13 to 19%. That's pretty good. Okay, I believe I've done this correctly, so the next portion says sales price increased by 10, variable costs increased by 5. What's the result? Well, I'm done. I'm going to highlight this, and if you get a mouse and a numeric keypad, this will greatly increase your efficiency as well as your accuracy. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to make sure that I started in row 15, column G. I'm going to come over here under the per unit, and all I have to do now, I don't have to paste it, I just have to press enter, and I just completed part B without doing any calculations. Let's take a look. The absolute reference went back to the $12. It increased it by 10%. The variable cost increased by 5. The calculation was already done for contribution margin. Fixed cost came from column C, and the math was done and the vertical analysis was done. Also, notice that this was blank, so the same units that we had are used in this example. Now, rather than spend my time putting numbers in a calculator, I can take a look here and see, well, there's some differences. I have 50,000 usage of our facility here in terms of production, 47.5 here. If I'm operating at capacity in my relevant range, maybe this is a good option to reduce production, but maybe it's not. Maybe I don't want to slow down production, so option B has some benefits. Look here, my variable costs did go up, but because of the increase in volume, I had better sales. But you see here the 119.5 versus the 117.5, we're not making as much money. These two are very, very close. So now we're sitting in a meeting and we're going, well, what can we do? Option B I like, and what can we do here? Well, what would happen if our variable costs only increased by 4%? All of a sudden, you see that 119.5 part A profit, 121 in part B, so our dollar profit goes up. Our percentage is still less than the option A, but a simple 1% change reduction in our variable cost increase makes this a more profitable option. So as you see, rather than crunching numbers and calculating this, we're focusing our efforts on what does this mean. Well, let's move on. And if I move much further after this one, I'm going to run into some trouble. So I'm going to split my screen, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to move up here, a little easier to see. I'm going to come here, and I'm going to put my mouse on column on E15. What this will do is freeze. It'll actually turn this into 4 screens. So I'm going to go View, and I'm going to hit Split. And the nice part with this is I can go anywhere in the worksheet, and I always see the data over there that I want to see. I can come up here. If I wanted to go back and look at the original data, I can move up and take a look there. So this is a great tool to really help you work through a worksheet that has fairly large amount of information and data. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and move over here, and I see that part C, sales price decreased by 10. Sales volume increases by 20%. So is that logical? Sure. If I drop my price, I should sell more units. So I'm ready to complete the problem. In this case, I'm going to use hotkeys. I'm going to hold the Control C. I believe Macs use Command C. And I just hit Control C. I'm going to go to the per unit. I'm going to press enter, and I finished the problem. So what do you think now? 18% profit drops to 8% profit. Not too good. Again, we took the original data, added the change. Here you see it. And all I'm doing here to see that is double-clicking the cell. All the math has been done. There's no change in variable cost. There's no change in the fixed cost. But wow, you know, our contribution margin ratio plummets. This is a bad decision. Okay? Let's go take a look at part D. Fixed expenses increased by $20,000. Notice there's no change here, and so in this case, we've completed the majority of the work. Again, I'm going to hit Control or Command C, copy, and then I'm just going to press enter. And so we don't get a change here, right? We still have the same original data, just like we had. So here, because we've had a new change, I'm going to double click the fixed cost, and I'm simply going to edit it. I'm going to hit plus 20,000, and now we see that option D is a little bit better than option C. We're getting 9% rather than 8%. We have the same contribution margin ratio as our current, but here I'm a little bothered. If I spend money on fixed assets and I have an increased cost, I expect something in return. And specifically, if I'm going to spend $20,000 on some type of fixed asset, I'd want to see these variable costs go down, or I'd want to see other fixed costs go down. Now, sometimes we're stuck. I've had two cars basically die on me. They're yard art now, and they were just old and worn out, and I had no choice but to replace those cars. The new cars, they get great gas mileage. My old F-150 in 1997 was getting about 15 miles to the gallon. I replaced it with a Honda HR-V. It gets 35 to the gallon, between 30 and 35. So I would want to see some benefits from spending that. Even if I'm forced to spend it, it should result in a more productive, efficient piece of equipment. So option D doesn't look too good either. Let's keep coming over here. Notice that I can see everything that I want to see. It's very simple. Come down here, sales price increased by 10, variable cost increased by 10, and sometimes that's a logical relationship. If we sell more, we're going to incur more cost to get it out. We'd like that to not happen, and so we'd want to look at it. Fixed costs increased by 25,000, and because we increased our sales price, the sales volume decreased by 10. Now remember, we changed this formula here, so I'm going to hit Control C. I'm going to press enter, and I have just completed the problem. No calculations necessary. Did it work? Sure. 10% reduction is 5,000 units, so we got 45,000 units sold. All of our calculations that we did one time have been duplicated. We haven't had to do them again. Here we see all of our changes came into place, and notice because of absolute reference, we didn't take 195 and add another 25,000. We took the original data and added 25,000. So what have we done today? We've added, subtracted, divided, totaled, we've copied and pasted, and really crucial, we use that absolute reference to help us copy and paste information. One last thing before we end the video. If I wanted to copy this, what I can do, and here everything's typed in, if I wanted to pick out pieces of this, for instance, let's go ahead and calculate break-even analysis. I could come down here, break-even, then I would take, what is break-even? It is the fixed cost, and notice I'm grabbing text now. The fixed expenses divided by the contribution margin. So I would take my fixed expenses, grab my contribution margin per unit, and then I could calculate break-even at 35,000 units. Now, does that work? Well, let's see. Let's go ahead and change that 50 to 35,000, and you'll see here everything changed, but 35,000 units equals break-even. So without typing a single number, running a single calculation in terms of up here, I was able to calculate break-even units for 35,000, and I was able to prove it through a contribution margin statement. Now I want to undo that, and you can go up here and you can click on these, you hit undo right up here. Where is it? There's an icon for undo. You can put it in your icon here in the little tray. What I like to do is Control Z. I'm just going to undo it. Break-even is also calculated using the contribution margin ratio. So I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to take my fixed expenses. Notice I'm not typing anything. And this one I'm going to type in, I'm going to do contribution margin ratio. So I pick up my 175, pick up my ratio. Now, it's a 0. That's because it's formatted to comma style 0, and I'm going to change it to a percentage. And then I'm simply going to divide the two, and I have 420,000 in sales. Now, I can't see everything I want to see, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this. I'm simply going to grab my split screen, and I'm going to move it up. Give me a little more working room. Now, as I said, a mouse is a great tool to have, much easier than your touchpad, and you'll see the mouse just change to a line here. I can move it around. I can move it and change any line by that. All right, well, does this actually work? So let's double check it. I'm going to go back and I'll put my 35,000. And sure enough, the 35,000 break-even units generated 420,000 in sales, and we're all good to go. If I wanted to run this on these other analysis, let me go ahead and put this back at the 50, Control Z or undo. If I wanted to run this analysis for all of my calculations, we'll go to Part A, and being very careful to copy and paste it where I put it. So I started in the per unit column. I just calculated break even, and in terms of unit and sales, I can copy that over here and have the exact same analysis for each of them. Now, one of the things I didn't do, I didn't pre-format this. It's coming out as 5. So one of the things, if I know that row is always going to be, I want 2 decimals, I can simply highlight the row, hit comma, and get my decimals put in and make it work it that way. All right, well, I think that pretty much wraps up all our skills that we need, and this is pretty much the extent of the skills that I use in this course. Again, add, subtract, divide, multiply, sum, total, copy and paste, and use absolute references. That wraps up another Kyle TV. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch the video, and hope it's been very helpful for you in being successful in my classes. As always, feel free to contact me on Monday, Wednesday, Friday after 12:15, before 4:30 via phone, most any time between 9 and 4:30 on Tuesday and Thursday by phone. Feel free to stop by my office during office hours on Monday and Wednesday, as well as we can make arrangements for meeting virtually on most Tuesday, Thursdays. Again, you guys have a great day. Thanks.